Okay, Mitali. How is your day going so far?
Oh, it's a great day. It's a beautiful day here in California. So I can't complain. The sun is shining. And I know that's not true all around the whole country, so I'm happy to be here.
Nope, I'm looking out at 4 feet of snow right now, and it's
Oh
still
no.
coming.
Where are you?
I'm in Ohio, Toledo, Ohio.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a lot of shoveling. Four
Yeah,
feet. Wow.
yeah, yeah. It's it's a lot of. Luckily, we don't have a sidewalk, so we don't got to worry about that.
Yeah, that's good.
But my mom won't let me shovel.
Oh.
We live together right now, and she won't let me shovel because I had brain surgery
Oh.
like
When did you have your surgery?
6 weeks ago.
Oh my goodness, I can understand why she's being careful. Yeah. Did it all go as well as you hoped?
Yeah, there was just some stroke effects, but everything was good. I
Mm.
I don't know why I'm talking about me. We're here to talk about you and Rickshaw Girl. Now,
Yeah.
one of the reasons I wanted to ask uh you about it is because I had actually never heard that term before I was looking at the information for your book slash film.
Right. You've never heard of the term of rickshaw?
I never had, no.
Oh, well, yeah, even in like if you go to New York City or San Francisco, they have these there's rickshaws. I know your listeners won't be able to see, but I have a little rickshaw, toy rickshaw here. So it's like a cab that you sit, passengers sit in the back, and then a guy on a cycle pushes the pedals and it's sort of like an Uber on wheels. And they're used all around Bangladesh. They're hard to pedal though. I tried one once. They're really heavy.
See, I that was my confusion. See, I had thought that rickshaw was representative of the girl dressing like a boy.
Oh.
So I thought that that was what that meant. And then I was
Oh, I
surprised
see. Interesting.
because I
Well,
had never heard the term before.
yeah.
I thought that that was what the rickshaw had meant. Um,
Oh, okay.
so that the listeners and the audience aren't as confused as I was, can you tell these people what your book is about exactly? Like,
Yeah,
just kind of
sure.
break it down.
Yeah, so it's set in a country called Bangladesh, which is on the other side of India, and that's where my parents were originally from. It's set in the village, and it's about a girl who wants to help her family. She wants to make some money and contribute to the family economy. But in that part of the world, for many, many years, girls couldn't really make money. They had to stay home and work in the house and also eventually become wives and mothers. But that's changing in Bangladesh. Bangladesh is actually one of the countries in the world where women are starting to get more power. They have something called microcredit, which is these small loans that women make and offer to each other. And with those small loans, they're able to start businesses. So when I was in Bangladesh, it was really fascinating to me to see how women were gaining power and girls and the whole country really was changing. So I wanted to write a book about that. But the amazing thing about Bangladesh is it's one of the most densely populated and in the past was very poor, but again it's coming forward now. Is the art especially on the rickshaws, which are, like I said, these pedicabs. They're these beautifully decorated and painted and colorful um, modes of transportation that people use all around the whole country. And so I wanted to write about that. So it's a story of a little girl. As I said, she's trying to help her family, but the only thing she's good at is painting. And how are you going to make money with painting? Her mom says, "That's no good. You're an artist. That's not going to make any money for the family." And so trying to figure out what to do with her love of art and her desire to help her family. And so she figures a way out. And the movie definitely took that arc of a young girl who wants to help her family, but it made it much more, I don't know, more of a bigger story because in the book she doesn't go to the big city, but in the movie she goes to the big city to try to make her fortune. So it's different and yet it's similar at the same time.
I do. Okay, so I have a question. I was trying to hold it in. You had said that girls, for a long time weren't able to work. Was that something because of like the government or their families would prefer that girls don't work?
Yeah, it was mostly families and tradition. So because girls were, would stay home and cook and clean and have the babies, they didn't, and traditionally just men work, just as it was in the Western culture for many, many years. But it's changing now. As I said, in Bangladesh, it's one of the countries that is where girls are starting to gain more power. So that's a hopeful thing. And it's not because they're getting a lot of outside help from or aid money from other countries. It's because, like I said, they're loaning each other money and they're starting small businesses and they're able to make some money from that, and it kind of grows and grows and grows. So
So do you, um, for the main character in this, when you were building that character, were you looking at characteristics of yourself, or was there like someone else specifically that you were thinking of, or was it just in general you tried to pull a little bit and just make a amalgam character that's of its own?
I think all three really of those choices. Um I lived in Bangladesh for 3 years and rode a lot of rickshaws and met a lot of little girls and also my grandmothers, grew up in the villages of Bengal and they didn't have much economic opportunity. But at the core of the story, the little girl is there's just two girls in the family. And in that culture back in the day and even today, when a girl is born, people say, "Oh, you should have had a son." And so my father, my sister Sonali was born first, and then my sister Rupali was born second. Then I was born, and everybody was waiting to see if it was going to be a boy. And my uncle came back and said it's another girl. And so everybody cried when I was born and were disappointed, except my father. My father said, "Nope, this girl is going to be a blessing to the whole family." And he always stood by that, as does Naima's father in the book. When people tell him, if only you had a son who could drive your rickshaw, if only you had a boy, he would always say, nope, a daughter is just as good as a son. So in that parallel, that's like me and my dad, because my dad never once said, "Oh, I wish you'd been a boy." So that's definitely similar.
So, not to talk about you so much, but I thought that I had read that you um had had done rickshaw when you were younger.
I had tried driving it. Yeah, I had. I when we lived there, I tried, but it's usually, like I said, really wiry, strong young men who pull it. You don't see any, you hardly. I think there's maybe one or two now who are women. But I did live there and I did ride rickshaws a lot when I
Okay,
lived
so you
there.
rode it a lot.
Yeah, I
Okay.
rode in the back and I would always, think of these little young skinny guys trying to pull our me and my kids and I think, wow, that's hard. So,
So you were born in Bangladesh and then you moved back to Bangladesh as well?
well, I was born in India. My parents are from Bangladesh, but there was a big war and between Pakistan and India, and the Great Britain left, and the country was divided. And so my parents went into the India side of the division, and then Bangladesh formed after that in the 1970s. And then, but I was born in India, and so I never went back to Bangladesh until I was an adult. And my husband and my boys and I went back for 3 years. We were doing some work with development and it was amazing to live there because it's the same language they speak that I spoke growing up, so I could understand everything and hear their stories. And it makes such a difference when you speak the language. I don't know, I know you said you have some connection to Jordan. Have you ever been to Jordan back there?
When I was young, I had,
Yeah.
and
Well, it's kind
I have sisters over there, so.
of okay, so maybe you speak some Arabic, but it's so amazing to go back a little bit.
Yeah.
When you go back and to a country that you don't know, but yet you speak the language, it feels like home. So I did love being there, and it was a wonderful place to live for 3 years.
So, now let's talk about your actual story. With the book, when you were writing it, were you picturing it as something that was gonna potentially that you would have liked to be live action, or was that something that eventually kind of that book took off and snowballed into live action against your expectations and like exceeding your expectations?
Yes, definitely the second. I have been writing a long time, but when I first started, I got a lot of rejections and had to really work hard to revise. And so I had my second book came out and it came out after 12 years of rejections after the first book, and I would think it was rejected by 23 different publishers. And so when my second book came out, I went to a library convention to do some signings. And at library conventions, usually the authors are all lined up. So I was sitting at my signing table, and there were these two authors next to me, and they were really kind of popular authors. So they had these long lines of people waiting to get their autograph, and I had nobody in my line at all, not a person. And so I pulled
Oh,
out my manuscript of Rickshaw Girl, which I was working on at the time, so years and years ago. And I just thought, well, I'll work on it. And then I was working on it, and this woman came over from the line next to me and said, "Hey, I read your second book. Are you the author of Monsoon Summer?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "Well, what are you working on now?" And I said, "Well, this Rickshaw Girl, the story of this girl wants to help her family. She loves to paint." And this woman said, "Oh, well, I'm an editor. Why don't you send me the book?" And at Charlesbridge, and this was after the book had been rejected maybe 12, 13 times already. So I sent it to her, and I think because we met, she took a risk and acquired it. And then it didn't do well at first, Joseph. It took a long time for that book to get any traction at all. It just kind of trickled along, and then but it started to get translated into other languages. So that helped because it's about duty and honor and helping your family. And I think that from countries like Japan and China, that's an important value. And so it really took off in those countries. And then back here in the States, it became was written up as a theater stage play, and that was fun. But then I got a phone call or an email or something saying, "Hey, I think this book could be a good movie. I'd like to option the rights." And that was from Eric Adams, who was of Sleeper Wave. And he said, "I have really great friends in Bangladesh. I'd love to try to make this into a movie." And I thought, is never going to happen. You have to raise the money, get the director, actors, make the sets, the costumes, distribution. I just was not expecting this to happen. So when it actually happened, it was amazing. And I've done interviews with the actor right next to me, and Novera Rahman. She's done an amazing job embodying Naima. And so I'm in the interview, and I keep looking over at this cute little Bangladeshi woman. She's a woman, and she plays a girl. And I keep thinking, wow, I made you up. What? I made you up out of my head. Then I remember, no, she's a real person.
it
No, she's
didn't
a
exist,
person.
and then you created it. Yeah,
Yeah, I didn't. She's not my character. She's a person all her own.
no.
So,
So she embodies your character really well, obviously. Was the
amazing.
was the casting process, did that involve you at all? Or
No,
was it
none of it involved me. I signed over all the creative rights because I knew that it was going to be done well because it was being made in Bangladesh by Bangladeshis, and it's a Bangladeshi story. I have roots there, but I didn't grow up there, and so I knew they were going to make it much more, deeper and richer and give it a great sense of place. So I just said, "Take it away," and they did. And I think it's just marvelous to see what their creativity did with the story. The screenwriters are Bangladeshi, and the cinematographer with all the colors. The thing that people keep saying about this film is that the colors are so beautiful, and the colors of rickshaw art, which is what Naima does. She's a rickshaw painter, are just these bright, primary, beautiful colors, and that's what they use throughout the movie. So visually, it's just a very beautiful film. And they did it all there, and I'm just really proud and happy that they did it all, and they saw something in the story that clicked, and I was just grateful to be any part of it at all. So I just sat there. I was sort of like the auntie that said, "Wow, you guys, this is amazing. Good job, everybody." Because I was just all I could, it was really true. I was just awestruck by the film. Yeah.
Well, is there, so obviously you loved the film, in its entirety, but was there a part that was added that maybe wasn't written by you and you were kind of surprised at how well it meshed with the world you created, or the world of that character?
Well, I mean, all of it. It's almost like a brand new story. The character is the same. Her desire to help her family is the same, but the plot is pretty different. And I loved that she went to the big city. I think that's true all around the whole world, that when there's not a lot of opportunity, people go to the big cities. And when you go to the big city and you're a young girl by yourself, that is difficult and dangerous. And so I thought that made the story much more interesting. The fact that she left her village and went to the city to try to help her family. And that actually that was really fun to see that happen in the movie. It didn't happen in the book.
So for people who are like super fans of your book and like appreciate your original idea, have you considered doing a version based on the movie on the screenplay and like kind of writing it your way, the way that you wrote the first book, just but also explaining the events and situations that happened in that movie instead.
See now, Joseph, you're thinking like my agent. You're she we've had conversations about this, and I think it depends. Like it's not kind of guess depends on how the film does. I do have I'm writing under contract now several different projects, so for me it's more a matter of time. But if the movie, I think it would be fabulous to have a tie-in novel that was more young adult rather than children oriented. My novel is pretty much about a girl who's 12, 11, and this movie is about a girl who's maybe 14, 15. And so I think I've written other young adult novels, and so I think it would be a really great thing. But I think a lot depends on how well the movie does and if there's interest in that. But so let's see, maybe after hearing this interview, the movie's just going to take off and become a big smash hit.
You heard it here first. So, let me ask you about the cast. Was there any? Oh no, I know you weren't involved with the cast at all, and you've already like I know you were involved with the casting. I mean, um, but has there been anybody specific like in the cast or crew that you have grown really close to since making this film?
Well, I think we've all kind of the gotten closer. I didn't get involved. I wasn't in the casting decisions at all. The director and producer picked the cast, but the mother and daughter in the movie are mother and daughter in real life too. So she's just so proud of her daughter in real life, and so I've gotten to know them, and then just the whole cast and crew. We went. I went to Bangladesh, and I had a really nice time with them all. But the amazing thing, Joseph, is that my ancestors who are Hindus and their ancestors who are Muslims were at war with each other back in those days. They didn't like each other at all. There was quite a lot of enmity. And so now, fast forward, my parents go to India, they go to America, they have me. I write a book about Bangladeshi Muslims. It goes back to them. It's made into a film. And now we're all enjoying this beautiful collaboration together from this background of war and this enmity has now become this beautiful
And
effort to bring a
and
story
we're
to.
in an interview together. We're both I mean, I'm not Islamic, but um,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
it's
I know it's kind of a miracle to see it all happen and all of it bringing together again after all that past history. So I'm very
and,
grateful for that.
and it's also like I see it happen a lot more with big media now too, like with the project Miss Marvel. She was Indian, but she was Islamic. So
Mm,
like I've seen a lot of bigger stuff kind of pick that up. And it's interesting, like you said, to look at the different times. And then they say time is relative, but um, it's just really interesting to see how it's advanced and it gets looked at different by Westerners.
right. You're right. And I think that is a good change. I don't know. Like when I've been to Jordan, I visited Jordan. I have friends who are Jordanian and we visited them. And one of the amazing things about Muslim and Islamic culture is how hospitable people are. And I just, in Jordan, it just felt like every door and every home was open to us. Same in Bangladesh. There's a deep value of hospitality to the outsider in Muslim countries and Muslim cultures. And I think people here don't understand that or don't see it. And so if you travel over there and you are welcomed into people's homes. It's incredible the hospitality in Muslim countries. I think it's a surprise to a lot of Americans to feel that.
Do you think that a lot of that overseas is based on Easterners to Easterners? Or do you think that the a lot of American people don't really see it just because they don't give it a chance to in the first place.
Well, yeah, the my husband is, American, like born in America, white guy. And so when we were in Boston, we were living in Boston and we had the chance to be a host family for a family from Jordan. The man was studying in graduate school there. And so we had this family in our home a couple times and but it was the year that 9/11 happened. And so it was not a good time for them. She wore a headscarf and they had two little boys and she was pregnant and she was pretty much somebody grabbed her headscarf and people would spit on them and it was just bad, and she actually miscarried the baby, so it was very sad. And so we were sort of friends to them, and then I guess when they went back to Jordan they just were so they wanted to stay in touch and we did too. So every holiday we would get a card and it would say, dear Rob and Mitali, we now have 3 sons. And then the next year, we now have 4 sons. And the next year, we now have 5 sons. And then finally it ended up with, we now have 6 sons. Please come and visit us. And so we went to Jordan to visit this family. And I think whenever you have a friendship like that, that's lasted the years and it just formed through some hard times, that's how you get over these feelings of, oh, I don't know if they're like me or they're different, so I think Americans that make friendships with people across cultures are always welcomed. It's the ones that don't, that sort of just go and stay in hotels and hunker down and don't make any connections or relationships. That's a totally different way to travel than having a family welcome you and that you know and that you love in a country. So I recommend the latter. I think it's much more it's better to travel like that.
Yeah. Well, with the passion that you talk with about that situation, is that a story that you've ever like have you ever had a story in your head based on that, or is that something that you ever considered writing about? With how things have changed over time?
Most of my stories, and I think, I mean, I have my 20th novel coming out this year, are all about border crossing and different cultures and peacemaking and justice. I write about that topic a lot. I really think the key is friendship, really, is crossing borders to make friends. And I've tried to do that in my life, but also in my stories. There's always somebody who crosses a border somewhere in my stories. So it's just interesting to me to see how powerful an act that is, to step across a language or a cultural barrier and make a friend, a real friend. It's a really wonderful practice to push back against a world full of conflict. So I highly recommend it.
Well, I definitely think you're obviously doing something right. Somebody stepped out of line and took what you had and made it into something that included things that you didn't even imagine in the first place. So, with you having written your 20th novel, now that you have one of them to become a film, and this will be my second to last question because we're coming up on time. But is there another one of your novels specifically that you would think you would like to see adapted into a film after Rickshaw Girl?
Well, there is a book called Tiger Boy that's similarly kind of an adventure story set in the villages of India. But You Bring the Distant Near is the one that I'd love to see made into maybe a TV series because it's about a family that immigrates to the United States. It's very memoir based on our life. So I think that would be so fun to see on the screen because the character in that book is like me to a T. So that'd be kind of fun. Maybe they could get somebody really amazing to play the version of me, and I would be able to say, "Hey, look, it's me played by X person," which would be fun. But it's always such a dream to have your book adapted into a film. And if I go leave this earth and there's only one, it's Rickshaw Girl, I would be completely satisfied and happy that this movie was made because this was my father's favorite book of mine, and he's no longer on Earth, and so I just am
My
so happy
condolences.
this was the book. Yeah, I it's been a little while, but I still miss him. As I said, I had a great father who always said this girl will be a blessing. So hopefully, he's in heaven seeing this all happen, and I'm just grateful for that. So yeah, you never know. It's a career, you don't have control over it. You just do the best you can and keep writing the next story.
Yeah, yeah. I I feel you. I just do the same thing, keep writing the next story. I just haven't made
What do you write?
I
What's your
write
write?
I write novels. I mean, in addition to writing up I write nonfiction as far as articles go to promote movies and films like this, but I also write books. And my first three I self-published because you know how you get rejected how many times. Well, with this one, I'm hopefully going to send it again and again and again and again and again.
Yay, well, welcome to the career. That's what it is. It's again and again and again and again and again. That's exactly the author's life.
Yeah,
No,
well,
that's
and that's
great.
why with Stephen King, you know, in his book on writing, he talks about how he threw away Cujo over and over again, and he gave up on it. And then his wife took one out of the trash and gave it back to him, and he ended up getting a publisher to take it like that week or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. It's I think was it Ernest Hemingway or somebody who said when you write a novel, you finish it and then you sort of throw it over the fence and hope that it gets read by somebody. You know, that something happens on the other side of the fence because it's such a mystery as to which books get picked and which books get published. And but you do the best you can. And you know, I think the fact that you are persisting and that you have resilience is really wonderful. And especially since you came through this big challenge recently, it's good to hear the hope in your voice about this novel reaching readers. I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah, the brain surgery has actually helped because I had a lot of the reason I got it was because I had a lot of seizures, and now that I'm not having seizures in my sleep, I'm allowed to sleep or I'm able to sleep, which makes it so I'm able to write.
Well,
So,
what a hopeful time for you. That's
yeah,
great. I'm so glad to hear that.
thank you very much. Yeah, so um before I let you go, is there anything about the book or movie that we didn't cover that you would like audiences to know about before going into them?
Well, I think the book is for middle grade, you know, like 8, 9, 10 years old. And the movie, I would say probably 12 and up. And you can find out more at rickshawgirlmovie.com. And you can find out about my writing. I'm the only Mitali Perkins to exist on the planet. There's no combination of that name anywhere else. So you can just Google
Thank
me.
you.
Yeah, oh yeah, Joseph, you said gotta gear.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I
yeah,
gotta
yeah.
hear.
So
Yeah, you got
it's fun to have a unique name because people can find you, but on the other hand, bad guys can find you too. So you got to
Yeah,
keep your privacy pretty protected. But I'm all over the web. You can find me on the Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, and I always love to hear from people. So just that your readers can. I'd love to hear what you thought of the film or the book. So stop by my Instagram or my Facebook or my Twitter and let me know.
and that's Mitali Perkins, everybody. Mitali.
Mm.
So make sure you guys check that out and reach out to her with your thoughts. And hopefully, we get to see more of your books become movies in the future.
Yay! Oh, good, Joseph, from your mouth to God's ear.
So, this was a wonderful conversation. Was there any last thing you like to plug before I end the interview?
Just thanks again for this opportunity, and I hope that you know that your audience gets to enjoy the colors of Bangladesh and the beauty of rickshaw art.
Yeah, because they're gonna definitely learn about. If I learned about it, they're gonna be learning about it too. So, thank you so much for spending time talking with me about your process, about your movie, your books, your family. You know, we pretty much covered everything. So
Yeah.
thank you for taking the time, and it was wonderful. And you have a killer week.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Joseph, for hosting. I really enjoyed the conversation, and you also have a blessed week.